My sister took my dress, my room, and even my birthday wishes. But in front of the entire family, she had to swallow her pride and ask for my help. My name is Emily, and this is the story of how my own family taught me that I wasn't worth the investment. Meanwhile, my younger sister, Sophie, was treated like a princess, deserving of nothing but the best. From a very young age, I learned that I was just the backup daughter, the one who should be content with the leftovers of my parents' love and attention. Our house was in Charleston, South Carolina. One of those charming colonial-style homes, with a front porch and 3 bedrooms. The mornings always smelled like fresh coffee and my mother's citrus perfume. My mom, Lauren, was the marketing director at a big company. My dad, Richard, was a lawyer at one of the most respected firms in town. They had a comfortable life, plenty of money for 2 daughters, but apparently, only enough love for one, Sophie. The difference in treatment started early and only grew worse with time. I remember my 8th birthday like it was yesterday. It was a sunny Saturday morning in March. All I wanted was a party like the one Sophie had the year before, in the neighborhood community hall, with Barbie decorations, a 2-tier cake, and at least 15 friends from school. I used to daydream about that day, picturing myself wearing a pink dress, being the center of attention. That morning, I walked downstairs, my heart pounding with excitement. My mom was in the kitchen making scrambled eggs, bacon, and pancakes. But there were no balloons, no ribbons, no sign that anything special was happening. "Mom, what about my party?" I asked, feeling a cold lump form in my chest. She didn't even look up from the frying pan. "Oh, Emily. I meant to tell you. We won't be able to throw your party this year. Your dad and I are saving up for Sophie's kindergarten graduation. She's going to need a beautiful dress, and, of course, a special party." It felt like the ground disappeared under my feet. Sophie wasn't even graduating for real, just one of those symbolic ceremonies with tiny caps and paper diplomas. And yet, that was more important than my 8th birthday. "But, you promised," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Emily, promises change. You're 8 now. You understand these things. You need to be mature, sweetheart. Sophie's still little, she needs our attention more right now." Something broke inside me in that moment. It wasn't just the disappointment of a cancelled party, it was the painful realization that I would always be second best. I ran back to my room, well, the room I shared with Sophie, threw myself on the bed, and cried until there were no tears left. A few hours later, Sophie walked in, beaming, holding a brand new doll that Mom had given her, just because. She was 5, with curly blonde hair that Mom always styled with little bows, and that kind of smile that melted any adult's heart. Sophie was bright, charismatic. I was quieter, scrawny, with straight brown hair, always hiding behind my books. "Why are you crying, Emmy?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Because today is my birthday, and nobody cares." "I care. Wanna play with my new doll?" And that was the thing. Sophie didn't even realize she was the favorite. She just received, without ever questioning why. She wasn't mean. She simply existed, surrounded by love. As the years passed, the pattern only became clearer. When Sophie turned 8, her party was massive. They rented the country club's ballroom, with a princess theme, more than 30 guests, actors dressed as Cinderella and Elsa, and a designer dress that probably cost more than anything I'd ever dared to ask for. Me? I helped do her hair, handed out cupcakes, smiled, pretending it didn't hurt. At school, I was top of my class. My report cards were filled with A's. I'd come home, hopeful, handing them over, expecting a "we're so proud of you." But all I ever got was, "Good job, Emily. That's what we expect from you. Now, can you help Sophie with her homework?" If Sophie brought home a B, it was like she'd won a Nobel Prize. "Wow. Our little girl is trying so hard. Let's go get you those new sneakers you wanted, sweetie." When I turned 13, I'd grown so much that none of my clothes fit anymore. Mom took me to Target and picked out whatever was on sale. "Girl, you grow too fast. You're getting expensive to keep," she half joked, half meant it. 2 weeks later, Sophie, who didn't even need new clothes, got an entire wardrobe from Nordstrom. She has events at school. She needs to look her best, Mom explained. "And I don't have events?" I asked, confused. "Emily, you're just more practical. You don't care about these things. And that's a good thing." Being practical was just an excuse for me to always get less. But nothing hurt more than what happened when I was about to turn 16. In the US, turning 16 isn't just another birthday, it's your sweet 16. A milestone. The moment when you stop being just a girl and start stepping into adulthood. I dreamed about it. I didn't want anything over the top, just a simple party, a pretty dress, a chance to finally be the main character in my own story. I planned everything. Made presentations, spreadsheets, got quotes from caterers and decorators. I knew they could afford it. Just a few months earlier, they had taken Sophie to Disney, just the two of them, because I needed to focus on studying for the SATs. One night after dinner, I finally worked up the courage. "Mom, Dad, can we talk for a minute?" I wanted to discuss my 16th birthday. They exchanged that look. That same look. The one that always meant, "You're not going to like what's coming." Dad sighed. "Emily, sweetheart, things are a bit tight financially this year. You took Sophie to Disney 3 months ago." "That was different," Mom jumped in, flustered. "It was a once-in-a-lifetime deal. A flash sale." "Okay. But about my birthday? It doesn't have to be big. We could do it at home, just a few friends, something simple." "We'll see what we can do," Dad replied, avoiding my eyes. A week before my birthday, I came home early. I'd finished my math test ahead of time. When I opened the door, I heard Mom on the phone in the office, her voice full of excitement. Yes, so Sophie's surprise party is all set. It'll be at the clubhouse, with her favorite catering. Yeah, the theme is golden unicorns. It's going to be perfect." I froze in the hallway. Paralyzed. Listening to every word. In that moment, I understood. It wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't bad timing. It wasn't circumstance. It was a choice. It had always been a choice. Yes, it's going to be on Saturday, the 15th. She has no idea. It's going to be a total surprise to celebrate her winning the dance competition. We hired that catering company she loved from Amanda's party. The dress arrived yesterday, it's gorgeous. It cost a fortune, but she deserves it. The 15th. The exact day of my 16th birthday. It felt like the ground vanished beneath my feet. They hadn't forgotten my birthday, they had deliberately chosen the same day to throw a surprise party for Sophie. A party I had dreamed of having. With the same catering I had suggested. On the same weekend that should have been my special moment. I went upstairs quietly, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and a burning ache deep inside. At that moment, I had absolute clarity. I would never be a priority in my family. Sophie didn't just get more love, attention, and resources, she had literally stolen my special day, and my parents had allowed it. No, they orchestrated it. On Saturday, my birthday, I woke up early and went downstairs for breakfast. My mom was in the kitchen, clearly anxious with all the preparations for the surprise party. "Good morning, Mom. Happy birthday to me, right?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She paused, looking embarrassed. "Oh, Emily, happy birthday, honey. 16, you've grown so much." "And, my party?" "Well, something came up. Sophie won the school's dance competition, and we thought it would be nice to have a little celebration this afternoon." It just happens to be on your birthday, but you understand, right? This is such an important achievement for her. On my 16th birthday. You can celebrate together with her. It'll be fun, a party for both of you. A party for Sophie, on my birthday. My mom sighed, clearly irritated with my persistence. Emily, don't be selfish. Your sister worked really hard for this. Can't you just be happy for her success? There it was again, me being selfish for wanting to be acknowledged on my own birthday. Me being insensitive for not wanting my special day to be about someone else. Me being the problem for questioning why I always got less. Sure, Mom. I'll be thrilled for Sophie's success, on my 16th birthday, I replied. The sarcasm in my voice was so sharp even I was surprised. What's with that tone, Emily? You're becoming a very difficult teenager. Sophie never gives me this kind of trouble. And there it was, the inevitable comparison. Sophie, the perfect daughter, the one who never questioned, never complained, never asked for more, because she already got everything. That afternoon, as the guests arrived for Sophie's party, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried quietly. I could hear the laughter, the music, the birthday song, from my sister. On my 16th birthday, I sat alone in the bathroom, crying, while everyone celebrated someone else. When I finally came out, the party was in full swing. Sophie stood glowing in a turquoise blue dress that sparkled under the lights, receiving congratulations from family and friends. She looked like a little celebrity, posing for pictures, cutting the cake, opening gifts. My aunt, Susan, was the only person who remembered it was also my birthday. Emily. Happy birthday, sweetheart. 16. You're so grown up and beautiful. A wave of gratitude hit me so hard I nearly burst into tears right there. Thank you, Aunt Susan. It means so much to me that you remembered. What do you mean, remembered? It's your birthday. Where's your cake? Your presents? The awkwardness in the room was immediate. My mom rushed over, trying to smooth it over. Oh, Susan. Emily wanted something low-key this year. You know how she is, more reserved. Reserved? Lauren, she's turning 16. This is a big deal. We're celebrating everything together. It's just more practical, my dad chimed in, visibly uncomfortable. Aunt Susan looked at me with a mix of understanding and outrage. She saw it. She understood exactly what was happening. And for the first time in my life, someone in my family was questioning the way I was treated. Emily, come here with me, she said, taking my hand. We walked to the kitchen, away from the crowd. Honey, how long has this been happening? She asked, her voice full of concern. Always, Aunt Susan. It's always been like this. And you've never said anything? To who? When I complain, they say I'm selfish, difficult, that I need to be more understanding. She shook her head, clearly upset. This isn't right, Emily. You deserve to be celebrated, especially on your 16th birthday. Those were the most validating words I had ever heard. For the first time, someone was confirming that what I felt was real. That it was unfair. That I had every right to be hurt. Aunt Susan. I just wanted to matter too. Just once. You do matter, Emily. And if your parents can't see that, then they're the ones missing out on knowing an extraordinary young woman. That night, after the guests left and Sophie went to bed, exhausted but thrilled with her achievement party, I made a decision that would change my life forever. Sitting on the bed we shared, watching her sleep peacefully surrounded by her mountain of presents, I made myself a promise. I was going to become so extraordinary, so undeniably successful, that not even my parents could ignore me. I would build a life so impressive that they would have no choice but to acknowledge me, to admit they underestimated the wrong daughter. And when that day came, when they finally saw my worth, I would make sure the entire family knew exactly how they had treated me all these years. This was the beginning of my revenge, not through anger, but through success. I didn't know how yet. But I knew I would. And it would be epic. From that disastrous 16th birthday on, something fundamental changed inside me. The pain of rejection turned into pure fuel. A fire that burned in my veins. I had spent years begging for scraps of love and recognition. Now, I was going to win so much, succeed so much, that ignoring me would be impossible. My transformation started at school. I had always been a good student, but good wasn't enough. I had to be exceptional. I started studying like my life depended on it. I would arrive an hour before classes to study in the library and stay until the school closed in the evening. My routine became military: wake up at 5:30 a.m., review materials over breakfast, focus completely in every class, do every assignment with obsessive perfection, and study deep into the night. At home, my dedication went unnoticed. While I buried myself in physics, chemistry, and calculus, my parents were always busy with Sophie's endless activities: dance rehearsals, tennis practice, French lessons, school theater. Our dinner table became a stage where Sophie recounted her day full of extracurriculars, while I sat in silence, mentally reviewing formulas and concepts. "So, how was school today, Emily?" my mom would ask occasionally, more out of obligation than genuine interest. "I got an A+ on my organic chemistry exam," I'd answer, trying not to let the hope show in my voice. "That's great, honey. Sophie, tell Dad about your dance recital." And so, my academic achievements were always reduced to shallow comments, while any minor accomplishment from Sophie became the center of the family's attention. But I kept pushing. By junior year, my GPA was a 4.9, the highest in the entire school. I participated in every academic competition I could find: math, physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy. I won bronze medals, silver, and finally, a gold medal in the United States Math Olympiad, even though I studied at a private school. I came home that day with my heart pounding in my chest, filled with pride and hope. I finally had something truly extraordinary to show them. A national gold medal. There was no way they could ignore this. "Mom! Dad!" I shouted as soon as I walked through the door. I won gold in the Math Olympiad. National gold. I held up the medal, heavy, shiny, my name engraved on it. My mom glanced at it quickly and gave me a distracted smile. "That's great, Emily. Congratulations. Now can you help me with Sophie's things? She has a casting for a commercial tomorrow, and she needs to look perfect." It felt like a punch to the stomach. "Mom, it's a gold medal. National. Only 15 students in the entire country won." "Yes, honey, that's nice. You've always been smart. Now come here, I need your opinion on what outfit Sophie should wear." There it was again. My extraordinary achievement dismissed as, "You've always been smart," while a casting for a commercial, that Sophie didn't even book, got the family's full attention and energy. That night, alone in my room, I held my gold medal tightly and made myself another promise. If academic success wasn't enough to impress my parents, then I would go further. Way further. I started researching universities abroad. Harvard. MIT. Stanford. Oxford. Cambridge, the best in the world. If I could land a full-ride scholarship at one of those places, there would be no denying my excellence. I dedicated the following months to preparing for the SAT, TOEFL, and every single international exam required. At the same time, I started working. At 17, I landed a part-time job as a math tutor at a prep school. I made $15 an hour, working about 20 hours a week. It wasn't much, but it was my money. For the first time in my life, I had financial independence, even if just a little. My parents didn't even realize I was working. I left home saying I had school activities, and came back late in the afternoon. For weeks, I saved every dollar I earned into a secret savings account, dreaming of the day I could use it for something that truly mattered. The tutoring job became transformative in ways I didn't expect. For the first time, I felt seen and valued for what I could do. My students respected me. Other teachers praised my ability to explain. And the program director always told me how dedicated and talented I was. "Emily, you've got a natural gift for teaching," said Mr. Anderson, the coordinator, after one of my lessons. "Have you ever considered going into academia?" It was the first time in my life that an adult encouraged me to dream big, to see potential in me beyond just being smart. "Actually, I'm trying to get a scholarship to study abroad," I confessed. "Really? Which schools?" "MIT. Harvard. Stanford." "I know it's hard, but..." "Hard? Emily, with your grades and your talent? You'll get in. I have no doubt. And if you need recommendation letters, count on me." For the first time in years, I felt like someone truly believed in me, not just believed, but was certain of my potential. It was such a powerful feeling that it fueled me to keep working even harder. During my senior year, my routine became even more intense. School from 7 a.m. to noon. Tutoring from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Studying for international exams from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. On Saturdays, I worked all day teaching private math and physics lessons. Sundays were entirely dedicated to college applications, essays, portfolios, documents. At home, I was practically invisible. I left early, came home late, ate quickly, and went straight to studying. My parents would occasionally comment that I was very focused on school, but always with the tone of someone who finds that a bit odd, like having academic ambition was a weird quirk. Sophie, on the other hand, continued to be the center of everything. At 15, she had become even more beautiful, the kind of beauty that turned heads wherever she went. She booked a few local commercial gigs, participated in amateur theater, and always had some teenage drama that consumed every family dinner conversation. Sophie's thinking about taking professional acting classes, my mom mentioned over dinner one night. "It's expensive, but she's so talented, it's worth the investment." "How much does it cost?" I asked, genuinely curious. $3,000 a month. For 2 years. I did the math quickly. $72,000. More money than I'd ever seen in my life, being invested in Sophie's dream of maybe becoming an actress. "That's a lot," I said. "But it's for her future, Emily. You know how important it is to invest in someone's potential." The irony hit me like a slap. They were ready to invest $72,000 in Sophie's potential, yet they'd never even considered spending $5,000 on a prep course to help me get into the best universities in the world. And what if I needed money for a college prep program? For international applications? I asked, testing them. My parents exchanged that look, the look that always meant, "Get ready to hear something you don't want. Emily, you're already smart enough. You don't need those expensive courses. Besides, why study abroad? We have excellent universities here." Because I want the best for my career. But that's so far from the family. Sophie always wanted to stay close to us. And there it was again. Sophie was the daughter who wanted to stay close, the one who valued family. I was the difficult one. The one whose ambitions were too much. "Maybe I want to be far, because I never felt valued when I was close," I replied. The honesty of my own words startled even me. The silence that followed was suffocating. My dad cleared his throat and quickly changed the subject. But I didn't back down. If they weren't going to support me financially, I'd find a way. I doubled my workload, took on more private tutoring, and even started doing freelance translation jobs. Turns out, I had a knack for languages. Every single dollar went straight into my freedom fund. In December of my senior year, the miracle I had worked so desperately for finally happened. I received an email that would change my life forever. "Dear Emily Sullivan, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology with a full scholarship. MIT. Full ride. I did it. I screamed so loud my mom came running into my room, thinking I was hurt. What happened? Why are you screaming? Mom. I got in. MIT. Full scholarship. I showed her the email on my laptop, my hands trembling with emotion. She read it silently, her expression slowly shifting. MIT, that's, in the US. It's the best technology university in the world, Mom. And they're paying for everything, tuition, housing, meals, books. Everything. But, it's so far. In that moment, I hoped she would hug me, scream with joy, call every relative to share the extraordinary news. Instead, her first reaction was to lament how far away it was. Mom, it's MIT. Do you understand how huge this is? Of course I do, sweetheart. It's very good. But, are you sure you want to go? You'll be so far from the family. I'm absolutely sure. My dad came home about an hour later, and his reaction was almost identical. A superficial acknowledgement of the achievement, immediately followed by concerns about the distance and missing me. Congratulations, Emily. That's a big achievement, he said, but his voice sounded more worried than proud. Thank you, Dad. Have you really thought this through? Moving to another country, it's a huge decision. I've been thinking about it for 2 years. It's exactly what I want. What if you don't adapt? What if you get homesick? What if? The questions went on for 15 straight minutes. They weren't supportive questions, they were subtle attempts to make me reconsider, to convince me to stay. Sophie came home in the middle of the conversation and, when she heard the news, had the most genuinely positive reaction. Holy crap, MIT. That's freaking awesome. You're gonna live in the United States. Finally, someone in my family showed real excitement about my achievement. Yeah, Bea. I'm going to study engineering. That's amazing. You've always been the smartest in the family. I knew you'd pull off something like this. For a moment, I felt a wave of genuine affection for my sister. Despite all the differences in how we were treated, Sophie had never been cruel to me. She just existed inside the bubble of privilege our parents created for her, without questioning why. In the months that followed, as I prepared for the move, the family dynamic grew even stranger. My parents swung between surface-level pride, which they displayed to outsiders, and subtle resistance, which they showed at home. In front of friends and extended family, they bragged, "Our Emily got into MIT on a full scholarship. We're so proud." But at home, it was the same relentless chorus of worries. Are you really sure about this, Emily? Isn't it going to be too hard? What if you can't keep up? What if you feel lonely? It was like they simply couldn't accept that I had achieved something extraordinary entirely on my own merit. It was easier for them to focus on what might go wrong than to actually celebrate my success. High school graduation was another revealing moment. I was valedictorian, received every academic award possible, and was the only student in the entire school accepted to a foreign university. During the ceremony, when my name was called for the top student award, I heard loud, excited cheers from the audience, but they weren't from my parents. They came from Aunt Susan, Mr. Anderson from the tutoring center, and a few coworkers from my part-time job who had come to support me. My parents clapped politely, like they were watching a stranger's child receive an award. After the ceremony, families gathered for pictures and celebrations. I was posing with some friends when I overheard my mom talking to other mothers. Yes, Emily is going to college abroad. We're a little worried, she's always been very independent, sometimes even rebellious. Not like Sophie, who's more of a family person. Even on the day of my greatest academic triumph, I was still labeled the difficult daughter, in contrast to Sophie, the family-oriented one. My farewell to the United States happened in August. I had sold everything I could, worked the entire summer to save money for my initial expenses, and was finally ready to start my new life. At the airport, the scene was perfectly emblematic of our family dynamic. My mom was crying quietly, but her tears felt more like self-pity than genuine maternal pride. My daughter's going so far away. My dad gave me practical advice about personal safety and managing money, as if I were a reckless child who needed basic survival instructions. Sophie, on the other hand, was genuinely emotional. I'm gonna miss you so much, Em. You're the bravest sister in the world. Thank you, Bia. Take care of our parents for me. They'll be fine. And so will I. You're the one who's gonna take over the world. For a moment, looking into my younger sister's eyes, I saw real admiration. She truly believed I was doing something extraordinary, even if our parents couldn't see it that way. During the flight to Boston, as Brazil disappeared beneath the clouds, I reflected deeply on the past years. I had done all of this alone. Every straight A, every medal, every acceptance letter, every accomplishment, all of it was the result of my own effort, my unbreakable determination, my refusal to accept that I was worth less than my sister. But more importantly, this was only the beginning. MIT was just the first step in a much bigger plan. I was going to become so extraordinary, so undeniably successful, that when I returned to Brazil, it would be impossible for anyone, especially my family, to ignore me or minimize me. When I arrived in Boston, I settled into my dorm with a mix of nerves and excitement. I was surrounded by the brightest minds in the world, from every continent, each with their own stories of resilience and determination. The first few months were challenging. The academic level was brutal, the competition intense, and I constantly felt like I needed to prove I deserved to be there. But I was ready for that. Years of working alone had taught me discipline, resilience, and, most importantly, how to turn rejection into fuel for achievement. I kept occasional contact with my family through emails and the occasional video call. The conversations always followed the same pattern, my parents asking if I was okay, if I wasn't homesick, if I wanted to reconsider and come home. Sophie always asked about my classes, Boston, and my new friends. During my sophomore year at MIT, I began working on research projects with renowned professors. My area of focus was becoming clear: artificial intelligence applied to medicine. It was a revolutionary field, with the potential to save millions of lives. At 20 years old, still an undergrad, I published my first scientific paper in a prestigious international journal. When I emailed my family to share the news, their response was predictably dismissive. "That's great, honey. Congratulations," followed immediately by, "Sophie started dating a really nice guy, from a very traditional family in Charleston." Always, my achievements were quickly overshadowed by whatever was happening in Sophie's life. But I kept going. During my 4 years of undergrad, I collected awards, publications, internships at prestigious tech companies, and offers from graduate programs at the top universities in the world. I chose to pursue my master's and PhD at Stanford, diving deeper into medical AI. During my doctorate, I developed a groundbreaking algorithm for early cancer diagnosis, one that caught the attention of the global scientific community. By age 26, I was receiving job offers from the biggest tech companies in the world: Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook. But I chose a promising medical tech startup where I could lead my own research team. It was around this time that everything started to shift in how people perceived me. Articles about my work began appearing in scientific journals, then in mainstream media. Young Brazilian develops technology that could revolutionize cancer diagnosis. Finally, at 28 years old, the thing that would change everything happened. I received an invitation to give a TED Talk about my research in medical artificial intelligence. The invitation came on a rainy Tuesday in November, through an email I had to read 3 times before I actually believed it was real. "Dear Dr. Silva, we would be honored to have you share your groundbreaking work in medical AI at our upcoming TED conference." Dr. Silva. I had become Dr. Silva, with a PhD from Stanford, publications in the world's most prestigious scientific journals, and now, an invitation to speak on the most respected stage in the world for innovators and visionaries. In that moment, alone in my apartment in Palo Alto, I felt that every humiliation, every time I was overlooked, every tear shed in the silence of my teenage bedroom finally made sense. Every no I had ever received from my family had pushed me toward an even greater yes from the world. My TED Talk would be titled, Compassionate AI, How Technology Can Democratize Medical Diagnosis. I had developed an algorithm capable of detecting early signs of cancer with 94% accuracy, using nothing but smartphone images. A technology that could save millions of lives in developing countries where access to sophisticated medical equipment is limited. In the months leading up to the talk, I started receiving attention from the Brazilian media. Journalists reached out, wanting to tell the story of the Brazilian scientist conquering Silicon Valley. The interviews always followed the same script: childhood, family, inspirations, challenges. Did your family always support your scientific career? Was a question that came up in every single interview. It was a delicate question. I could have used that platform to publicly expose how I was neglected, how my parents invested in my sister's dreams but never in mine, how I grew up feeling like I wasn't worthy of their love. But something told me to wait. My revenge would be more elegant, more powerful. My family always knew I was different, I would answer diplomatically. They understood that I needed to walk my own path. Technically, it wasn't a lie. They did know I was different, they just never valued that difference. During this period, something curious happened. My family suddenly started contacting me much more frequently. My mom was now calling me every week, eager to know every detail of my professional life. "Emily, I saw an article about you in the paper. We're so proud." "Thank you, Mom. Can you send me the link so I can share it with my friends?" They were so impressed when I told them my daughter is in the news. The irony was suffocating. For years, they had dismissed my academic achievements. Now that those achievements were generating public recognition, suddenly I had become the family's pride. "Of course, Mom. I'll send it. And tell me, are you going to be on TV? I'm recording a talk that will be watched by millions of people around the world." "That's amazing. I have to tell everyone. My daughter, on global television." The change in attitude was dramatic. I had left Brazil as the difficult daughter who wanted to distance herself from the family. Now, I was returning as a trophy, something to be shown off to friends. Sophie, on the other hand, remained as genuine as ever. I always knew you were special. Remember when we were kids and you said you wanted to change the world? You're actually doing it. Thank you, Bia. That means a lot coming from you. I show your interviews to everyone here. My friends are blown away that my sister is famous." During our conversations, I realized Sophie had grown into an interesting young woman. At 24, she had given up on acting and was working as a graphic designer. She had real talent, great clients, and seemed genuinely happy with her choices. "So how are things back home?" I asked during one of our calls. "Oh, you know. Mom and Dad are kind of lost without you here. I think they finally realized they underestimated you all those years." It was the first time anyone in my family had ever said something like that to me. "You really think so? Emily, be honest with me. They treated you unfairly when we were kids, didn't they?" Her question caught me completely off guard. Sophie had never directly questioned the family dynamic before. "Why are you asking me this now?" "Because I grew up. I started seeing things more clearly. I remember so many situations that didn't make sense back then. Like your 16th birthday, that magically turned into my dance competition celebration. You remember that?" "Of course I do. I thought it was weird back then, but I was just a kid. Now, thinking about it as an adult, it was honestly a pretty awful thing to do. It was your 16th birthday, for God's sake." A wave of validation so intense washed over me that I almost cried. "Bia. You don't need to explain anything, Em. I know you had to fight way harder than I ever did to get where you are. And look at you now, you are literally one of the smartest people on the planet. Thank you for seeing that. I've always admired you, you know? Even when we were kids. You were brave, determined, never gave up on anything. I was always jealous of your strength. It was a conversation I never thought I'd have with Sophie. For years, I saw her as the privileged daughter who got everything without effort. Discovering that she had developed awareness of our family dynamics, and that she genuinely admired me, was deeply moving. 3 weeks before the TED Talk recording, I received an unexpected call from my mom. "Emily, there's something we want to tell you." "What is it, Mom?" "Your father and we're thinking of flying out to watch your TED Talk." My heart skipped a beat. They wanted to come to the US to see me speak at TED? After years of discouraging me, now they wanted to witness the greatest triumph of my life? Really? Yes. We did some research about this TED thing, and, wow, Emily, it's a big deal. You're going to be on the same stage where people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs have spoken. Yeah, Mom. It's a pretty big deal. We're so proud, and, honestly, a little ashamed. Ashamed? There was a long pause. Emily, your father and I have been talking a lot these past weeks. Seeing you in the newspapers, reading about everything you've accomplished, we realized that maybe we didn't support you the way we should have when you were younger. It was the closest thing to an apology I had ever received from them. Mom. You don't have to say anything. We just want you to know, we see it now. And we are incredibly proud of the extraordinary woman you've become. Despite us, not because of us. I cried after hanging up. Not tears of sadness, but of catharsis. Of release. Of validation. A deep, profound satisfaction of having my lifelong struggle finally recognized by the people whose acknowledgement had always mattered most. On the day of the TED Talk, my parents and Sophie were sitting in the audience. Seeing them there, having flown thousands of miles to support me, was surreal. Especially because, for so many years, they had questioned my decision to move to the US. My talk lasted 18 minutes. I spoke about how technology could democratize access to healthcare, about how my algorithm could save lives in underserved communities, about how science has the power to reduce inequality. But midway through the talk, I allowed myself one personal moment. I grew up in a family that didn't always understand my passion for science, I said, looking directly at where my parents were sitting. For years, I felt like my dreams were too big, too different, too far from what was expected. But today, I realize, it was never that my dreams were too big. It was the world around me that was too small for them. The audience applauded, but my eyes were focused on my parents' faces. I saw my mother discreetly wipe away a tear. Sometimes, we need to step away from the structures that limit us to truly discover what we're capable of. And once we discover it, we have the responsibility to use that power to make the world better. I ended the talk by showing how my algorithm had successfully diagnosed cancer cases that had been missed by experienced doctors. The numbers were astonishing: 94% accuracy, a cost 1,000th that of traditional exams, and the potential to save millions of lives. The crowd stood in a standing ovation. At TED. For me. Backstage, my family was waiting. My mother hugged me tighter than she ever had before. Emily. I have no words. You were brilliant. Thank you, Mom. No, honey. Thank you. For not giving up on your dreams when we couldn't see them. For becoming this extraordinary person. For giving us the chance to learn how to be better parents. My father, who had always been more reserved with affection, held my hands. Sweetheart, I spent years thinking you were running away from the family. But now I realize you were running toward your destiny. And what a destiny. Sophie was the last to hug me. I knew, she whispered in my ear. I always knew you were special. That night, at the celebration dinner, something fundamental had shifted in our family dynamic. For the first time in my life, I was the center of attention from my own merit, not out of obligation or politeness. My parents proudly introduced themselves to the other speakers as the parents of Dr. Emily Silva. There was genuine pride in their voices, but also a new humility, like they finally understood just how much they had underestimated who I had always been. The video of my TED Talk was posted online 2 weeks later, and it went viral. Within a month, it had more than 5 million views. Universities started inviting me for keynote lectures. Companies offered multi-million-dollar partnerships. Governments wanted to implement my technology in their healthcare systems. But the moment that truly sealed my transformation from the overlooked daughter to the family's pride was still to come. And it would happen exactly where it all began, back home, in Brazil, in front of the entire extended family, the same family that had witnessed years of favoritism towards Sophie. My final revenge was coming. And it would be sweeter than I had ever imagined. 6 months after the TED Talk, I received the phone call that would change everything forever. It was from the Nobel Foundation. Dr. Silva, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for this year's Nobel Prize in Medicine, for your groundbreaking contribution to early cancer diagnosis through artificial intelligence. I dropped the phone. The Nobel Prize. At 29, I was about to become the youngest person in history to win the Nobel Prize in Medicine. The news spread worldwide within hours. Every major newspaper in Brazil had my face on the front page. 29-year-old Brazilian wins Nobel Prize in Medicine. BBC. CNN. Le Monde. Every global outlet covered the story of the young scientist who had revolutionized medical diagnostics. But the call I was most waiting for came from home. Emily, my mom screamed on the phone, clearly crying. Nobel. Nobel. My daughter won the Nobel Prize. Not yet, Mom. I was nominated. The ceremony is in December. Oh, but they're obviously going to give it to you. It's all over the news. Everyone's talking about it. I couldn't even work today. The phone hasn't stopped ringing with journalists calling. It was surreal. The same woman who once canceled my 8th birthday because we needed to save money was now giving interviews to journalists all over the world about how she had raised a genius. Mom, what are you telling the journalists? The truth. That we always knew you were special, that you showed extraordinary intelligence from a young age, that we always encouraged your studies. I had to stop myself from laughing. The family narrative was being rewritten in real time. Sweetheart, my mom continued, we need to talk about the ceremony in December. Your father and I want to be there. And Sophie. And your grandparents. And your uncles, and... Mom, hold on. The ceremony is in Stockholm. It's not a family reunion. But it's the Nobel Prize. Our family has never had a Nobel. Don't you understand how big this is? The irony of her explaining the magnitude of something I had accomplished, entirely on my own, against every expectation they had set for me, was almost too much to process. In the following weeks, I was flooded with interview requests. Every single one wanted the same thing, the personal story. How did a young woman from Brazil rise to the very top of global science? During an interview for Brazil's Fantástico, the inevitable question came. Emily, tell us about your family. Did they always support your scientific career? I looked straight into the camera, fully aware that my entire family was watching. My family taught me valuable lessons. I began carefully. They taught me that we don't always receive the recognition we deserve when we deserve it. That sometimes, we have to fight for our dreams alone. That external validation should never be our only motivation. And most importantly, they taught me that when you achieve something extraordinary, you have the responsibility to use that success to help others. It was a diplomatic answer, but anyone who knew our story could read between the lines. The interview aired on a Sunday night. The next morning, I got a call from Sophie. We watched your interview. It was beautiful. Thank you. But I understood exactly what you were saying between the lines. And I want you to know. I agree with every word. Bia. Let me finish. Mom and Dad are in this absolute frenzy over your Nobel. like they had anything to do with it. But we both know the truth. You got here despite them, not because of them. Hearing that from Sophie was the most liberating thing in the world. And I want to apologize, she continued. For what? For being, even if unintentionally, complicit in something unfair. For accepting all the privileges without ever questioning why you didn't get the same. For not standing up for you when I should have. Bia, you were a kid. Yeah, I was a kid when it started. But I grew up. And for years, I kept accepting it like it was normal. Only after seeing your success did I really start to think about our childhood, and realize how unfair it was. Thank you for saying that. It means everything. And I want you to know, when you walk onto that stage to receive your Nobel, I'll be the one screaming louder than anyone. Because you deserve every single second of that recognition. In November, just a month before the Nobel ceremony, something happened that would make my revenge even sweeter. And far more ironic. I got a call from Sophie. But this time, her voice was different, anxious, almost desperate. I need to tell you something. What happened? Remember João Pedro? The boyfriend Mom and Dad loved so much? Yeah. He broke up with me. In the worst way. In front of his friends. Humiliated me. Said I was just a graphic designer with no future. Instant, visceral anger surged through me. No matter how complicated our relationship had been, Sophie was my sister. And no one, absolutely no one, had the right to humiliate her. What an idiot. I'm so sorry, Bia. But it's not just that. He spread lies about me on social media. Said I was a gold digger, that I was only dating him for his family's money. He even made fake profiles to harass me. Emily. I'm being cancelled online. Cancelled? How? My clients are dropping me. People are leaving horrible comments on my work. My professional reputation is ruined. And it's all because of his lies. Beatrice started crying on the phone. I don't know what to do anymore. I tried to defend myself, but he has more followers, more influence. No one believes my side. Bia, why are you telling me this? Because I need your help. The irony hit me like lightning. Beatrice, the sister who spent her whole life as the favorite, getting everything handed to her without ever having to fight, was now asking for help from the sister she had watched be overlooked for years. What do you want me to do? You have millions of followers now, Emily. You're famous worldwide. If you speak out about what's happening, people will believe you. You can clear my name. It was the moment I had unconsciously waited for my entire life. Beatrice, vulnerable, asking for my help. I had the power to save her, or ignore her. I could have chosen the ultimate revenge, letting her experience what it feels like to have no support when you need it the most. But looking back on my entire journey, I realized that true victory wasn't becoming like the people who once ignored me. True victory was being the person I had always wished someone would have been for me. Of course, I'll help you, Bia. Really? You're my sister. And you've always been the only one in this family who genuinely celebrated my wins. Of course, I'm going to help you. That same night, I posted a statement on my social media. I've known my sister Beatrice for 29 years. She's talented, honest, and one of the most generous people I know. She is being unfairly attacked by a vindictive ex-boyfriend. As someone who knows how devastating injustice can be, I refuse to stay silent. #Justice for Beatrice. The post went viral. Within 48 hours, the truth about João Pedro came out. Other ex-girlfriends came forward with similar stories. He was exposed as a serial manipulator. Beatrice was fully vindicated, and not only did her career recover, it skyrocketed. New clients flooded in, inspired by her story. Emily, you saved my life, she told me in an emotional call. It was the least I could do. No, it wasn't the least. You could have chosen revenge. You could have let me figure it out alone, like you had to your whole life. But you didn't. You chose to help me. That shows who you really are. And who am I? The best of us. December came, and with it, the Nobel ceremony in Stockholm. My entire family made the trip: parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. People who had witnessed years of favoritism toward Beatrice were now here to watch me receive the highest honor in science. The night before the ceremony, there was an official dinner with all the laureates and their families. I sat at the head table, wearing a navy blue evening gown, discussing research with some of the brightest minds in the world. Across the hall, I saw my family. My parents were clearly starstruck, snapping photos of everything, introducing themselves to everyone as the parents of Dr. Emily Silva, Nobel Prize winner in medicine. At one point, Aunt Susan, the same aunt who once called out the injustice at my 16th birthday, approached the head table. "Emily, honey, may I speak with you for a moment?" We stepped aside to a quieter corner. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her eyes glassy with emotion. "What is it, Aunt Susan?" "Do you remember your 16th birthday?" "Of course. That day. I was so furious with what I saw that I had a huge fight with your mother after you left. I told her they were being unfair. That you deserved to be celebrated." I didn't know that." "Oh," she was furious. "Said I didn't understand anything about raising kids, that every child has different needs. But I knew. I knew it was wrong. And today, seeing you here, about to receive the Nobel Prize." She took a deep breath. "I know, without a doubt, that the 16-year-old girl who cried alone in the bathroom at her own party earned every single tear. Because those tears turned her into the extraordinary woman standing here today." "Aunt." "No, let me finish. Your mother's been calling me every week lately, bragging about how she always knew you were special. How she always supported your dreams. But you and I? We know the truth, don't we?" I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. "You achieved all of this on your own, Emily. Against every expectation they placed on you. And that makes your success even more remarkable." I cried right there, in the middle of the Golden Hall in Stockholm. After so many years, someone in my family had fully, completely, validated my journey. The morning of the ceremony, I woke up at 6, even though I barely slept. The nerves were unlike anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't just about the prize, it was about what this moment represented. The girl who had been forgotten at her own birthday was now being recognized by the entire world. At 2 p.m., at the Stockholm Concert Hall, the ceremony began. The King of Sweden was present, along with the world's scientific elite and representatives from every nation. TV cameras broadcasted the event to over 100 countries. When my name was called, I walked to the stage on trembling legs. The king handed me the gold medal and the diploma. For a brief moment, I held them in my hands and thought about every step that led me here. During my acceptance speech, I looked straight at my family sitting in the front row. "This prize is not just mine," I began. "It belongs to everyone who believes that science can change the world. It belongs to everyone who has ever fought against the limitations others tried to place on them. It belongs to everyone who has turned the pain of rejection into fuel for extraordinary achievements." I saw my mother wiping away tears. "I dedicate this prize especially to the children who feel invisible in their own families. To the ones who believe their dreams are too big, too different. Your dreams are not too big, the world around you is too small for them. Never, ever shrink your dreams to fit someone else's limited expectations." The audience erupted into applause. A standing ovation. It wasn't just a message to the world, it was a message to my family. A public declaration that I had triumphed, not just scientifically, but emotionally. After the ceremony, there was a royal banquet. My entire family was glowing, taking pictures with me and my medal. It felt surreal to see the same people who once questioned my dreams now bragging about them to strangers. This is our daughter, Dr. Emily Silva, Nobel laureate in medicine, my father told anyone who walked by. During the banquet came the moment that would permanently seal my transformation from the overlooked daughter to the undeniable pride of the family. The ceremony's presenter approached our table. Dr. Silva, the king would like to meet your family personally. Would you introduce them? We walked over to the royal table. My parents were visibly nervous, emotional. Your Majesty, the presenter said, it is my honor to introduce the parents of Dr. Emily Silva, Helena and Richard Silva, from Brazil. The king greeted my parents warmly. You must be very proud, the king said in English, which my father quickly translated for my mother. Immensely proud, Your Majesty, my father replied. Emily has always been a special child, always showed extraordinary intelligence. I almost smiled. The family narrative had been completely rewritten. According to this new version, I had always been the special daughter, always supported, always encouraged. And you, ma'am, the king asked my mother. Your daughter is an inspiration to young people all over the world, my mother answered, after my father translated. We are so grateful to be here to witness this historic moment. It was performative, but also real. They were genuinely proud. They had truly traveled thousands of miles to be here for me. The fact that their pride came late didn't make it any less sincere now. Sophie, standing beside me the entire time, leaned in and whispered, You did it, Em. You really did it. That night, back at the hotel, our entire family gathered in the presidential suite the Nobel Committee had reserved for me. It was the first time in years we were all together in the same room, but the dynamic had shifted completely. I was no longer the daughter fighting for attention. I was now the gravitational center around which everyone else orbited. Every word I spoke was heard with reverent attention. Every story I told about my life in the U.S. was received with genuine fascination. Emily, my grandfather asked, could you tell us how you developed this technology? I spent an hour explaining my research in an accessible way. Everyone listened in respectful silence, asking thoughtful questions, showing real interest. It was ironic. For years, when I tried to share smaller academic successes, I'd get a brief, that's nice, followed by a quick pivot to whatever Beatrice was doing. Now, with an accomplishment so massive it was impossible to minimize, I finally had their full attention. Sweetheart, my mother said as the conversation quieted, your father and we'd like to speak with you privately. We stepped out onto the suite's balcony. Stockholm was stunning at night, with golden lights reflecting on the water. Emily, my father began, we know, we weren't the parents you deserved when you were younger. It was the most direct admission I had ever heard from them. Dad. No. Let me finish. We spent years thinking you were too self-sufficient. That you didn't need our support the way Sophie did. But now we understand, every child needs support, no matter how capable they seem. My mother continued, we failed you, Emily. We failed you when we canceled your 8th birthday. We failed you when we made Sophie's dance competition the focus of your 16th birthday. We failed you when we didn't celebrate your medals, your academic achievements. We failed you when we questioned your decision to study abroad instead of supporting you unconditionally. It was cathartic to hear each failure named out loud. And we failed you, my father added, when we didn't realize we were raising the most extraordinary person we've ever known. You didn't raise me, I replied, with a firmness that surprised even me. I raised myself. On my own. Despite you. Not because of you. They stood silent, absorbing the harshness, and the truth, of my words. You're right, my mother finally said. You raised yourself. And you did a far better job than we ever could have. But we want you to know, my father added, we see it now. We recognize our mistakes. And from this moment on, we want to be the parents you always deserved. Even though I'm already a fully independent adult? Even though you're an extraordinary adult who has already conquered the world, my mother replied. It's never too late to start doing the right thing. It was a conversation I had dreamed of for years. It didn't erase the past, but it created the possibility of a different future. I accept, I finally said. But on one condition. Anything. Never compare me and Sophie again. Never treat one daughter as the favorite and the other as the backup. We both deserve unconditional love and support, each in our own way. We promise, they said in unison. That night, alone in the presidential suite after everyone went to bed, I held my Nobel medal and reflected on the entire journey. I had left Brazil as an 18-year-old girl, wounded, determined to prove her worth. I was returning as a 29-year-old woman who had not only proved her worth but transformed her pain into purpose, her rejection into fuel for change that would save millions of lives. The revenge I had subconsciously planned for years had materialized, but in a way far more elegant and powerful than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't destructive. It was revenge through absolute excellence, through achievements so extraordinary they rewrote the family narrative entirely. Returning to Brazil was triumphant. I was greeted at the airport by crowds, the Minister of Science, university deans. I received the keys to the city of São Paulo, honorary citizenship in several states, and invitations to speak at every major university in the country. But the most meaningful moment happened a week after I returned. My family threw a party, not for Beatriz, not shared with anyone, a party just for me. To celebrate my Nobel. It was held in the same event hall where Sophie had her elaborate birthday parties. The same relatives were there, aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends. But this time, I was the guest of honor. Today, we are here to celebrate our Emily, my mother said during an emotional toast. The girl we always knew was special. Sophie looked at me and pulled a playful face at the very obvious rewriting of history. I grinned back. But who has surpassed even our highest expectations? Emily, you haven't just brought pride to our family, you are changing the world. Everyone applauded. It was the party I had dreamed of as a child, 20 years late, but it came. During the party, Aunt Susan pulled me aside. You know what's the most beautiful thing about all this? She asked. What? You could have used your position to humiliate your parents publicly. You could have told every journalist how you were neglected. You could have gotten your revenge in a cruel way. And why didn't I? Because you are bigger than the pain you carried. You turned your wounds into wisdom. Your rejection into determination. Your suffering into purpose. That's the mark of a truly extraordinary person. At the end of the party, when everyone had left, it was just me and Sophie standing in the empty hall. She said, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you forgive me? For what? For being the favorite. For accepting all the privileges without ever questioning why you didn't get the same. For not standing up for you when I should have. I looked at my younger sister, now a 26-year-old woman, talented and self-aware, who had grown enough to recognize the injustices of our past. Bea, you were a child. You couldn't have questioned a dynamic our parents created. But I could have when I grew up. You did. Today. Right now. It's never too late to recognize mistakes and try to do better. You're so generous. I'm not generous. I'm strategic. Anger and resentment only hurt me. Forgiving and moving forward, that frees me to focus on what really matters. And what's that? Using my platform to help other kids who feel invisible in their own families. Showing them that rejection can be turned into fuel for extraordinary achievements. In the months that followed, I founded an organization for young scientists from low-income families, especially for kids who faced neglect within their own homes. It was my way of transforming my own pain into a legacy of hope for others. The foundation received donations from scientists around the world, including several other Nobel laureates. Within 2 years, we had already awarded scholarships to over 1,000 young Brazilians. At one of the scholarship award ceremonies, a 15-year-old girl approached me. Dr. Emily, can I talk to you? Of course, sweetheart. My parents say science isn't for girls. They say I should focus on more feminine things. Sometimes I feel like giving up. I held her hands and looked into her eyes. Listen to me very carefully. Your parents are wrong. Science is for anyone who has curiosity, determination, and the courage to ask difficult questions. Gender has nothing to do with it. But, it's so hard fighting alone. I know it's hard. I fought alone too. But do you know what I've learned? When we prove our worth through extraordinary achievements, even the people who once doubted us are forced to recognize our greatness. Do you really think I can do it? I know you can. And do you know why? Because you already have the most important trait for success in science. You don't take no for an answer. You came here today looking for encouragement instead of giving up. That means you have what it takes. 2 years later, I received an email from that same girl. She had won a national chemistry competition and received scholarship offers from several international universities. That was it. My revenge had transformed into a legacy. The pain I once carried had become fuel, not just for my own success but to help hundreds of other kids turn their wounds into power. Today, at 32, I'm the director of the Medical Artificial Intelligence Institute I founded. I have over 50 scientific publications, and my technology has already saved more than 1 million lives around the world. But more importantly, I have a family that finally values me for who I've always been. A sister who has become my best friend. And the absolute certainty that I turned my deepest wound into my greatest strength. The little girl who once cried alone in the bathroom during her own birthday party grew up to become the woman the entire world now knows and respects. And do you know what the sweetest part of this journey is? It's not just that I proved my worth to my family. It's that I proved it to myself. That I had always been valuable, with or without anyone else's recognition. That's the real victory, realizing that we never needed anyone's validation to be extraordinary. We already are. We just need the courage to believe it, and the determination to make our brilliance impossible to ignore. And when that happens, when our success becomes so big it can no longer be minimized or dismissed, revenge becomes unnecessary. Because we've achieved something infinitely more powerful, the unconditional, irreversible respect of everyone who ever doubted us. 5 years after winning the Nobel, on a quiet Saturday morning in Sao Paulo, I got an unexpected call from Beatriz. Can you come over? I've got a surprise for you. When I arrived, I found the whole family gathered in her living room, including cousins I hadn't seen in years. What's going on? I asked, curious. Beatriz handed me a wrapped package. Open it. Inside was a photo album she had made. The first page was a picture of me at 8 years old, on the day of my cancelled birthday, my eyes red from crying. Beneath the photo, she had written, "To the brave little girl who turned tears into laboratories, rejection into revolution, and pain into discoveries that save lives." The following pages told the story of my entire journey through photos, me studying alone in my room, receiving academic medals, graduating high school, boarding my flight to MIT, graduating from Stanford, speaking at the TED Talk, standing on the Nobel stage. On the last page, there was a recent photo of me giving a lecture to kids at my foundation, with this final dedication. The Emily who once cried alone became Dr. Emily, an inspiration to millions. Thank you for teaching us that greatness doesn't come from where we start, but from where we choose to go. I cried. After everything, after all the battles, all the victories, this simple, heartfelt gesture from my sister was the most precious gift I could have ever received. Why did you do this? I asked, overwhelmed. Because, my mom replied, we wanted you to know that the story of our family has changed forever. We're no longer the family that had one favorite daughter and one neglected. We're the family that learned to celebrate the extraordinariness of both our daughters, each in her own way. My dad continued, and because we wanted to document that the transformation wasn't just yours, Emily. It was ours too. You taught us how to be a better family. At that moment, looking at the very people who once made me feel invisible, now seeing me as their greatest source of pride and inspiration, I understood that my revenge was complete in a way that transcended any childhood fantasy of getting even. I hadn't just forced my family to recognize me. I had inspired all of us to become better versions of ourselves. The little girl who once asked for a birthday party and received indifference had grown into the woman the whole world celebrates. And along the way, she didn't just change her own life, she changed millions of others as well. That's the sweetest revenge of all, when our success doesn't just elevate us, it elevates everyone around us. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't destroying those who hurt us. It's becoming so extraordinary that they have no choice but to recognize our greatness. And in the process, we don't just transform our own lives, we inspire everyone around us to become better too. Did you enjoy this story? Leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories of overcoming and turning pain into power. What was the moment that touched you the most? Tell us in the comments.